and welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to have you with us wherever you are watching us from. We are grateful that you're taking your time to tune in, and we hope that you enjoy the next hour or so of motorsports conversation. This show is powered by MillerTech Energy. MillerTech builds premium lithium batteries designed to keep you going all weekend long. They're not for cars. They're for RVs, boats, golf carts, off-road life, and more. If you're looking for a 10-year hassle-free warranty and a battery that will keep you running, made by an Amish-owned company where quality is supreme, MillerTech Energy is that place. MillerTechEnergy.com is their website. If you go there and you use code NASCAR10, you'll get 10% off your order. And as we get things started here, Jacob Seelman is with me, my trusty co-host and Steering Wheel Nation news editor, of course, SWN, the home of America's Racers. We're going to talk a lot about America's Racers on this show, past and present. And we're going to start with the starting line, Jacob, and dive right into a topic that's been somewhat controversial over the last couple of weeks. And that is the debate over who gets in to the NASCAR Hall of Fame.
We are. This would be the America's Racers of the past, if you will, discussion, because we are now just under a month away from the voting day for the class of 2027 for the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and just recently had the announcement a little over a week ago of those who are eligible for the class of 2027 on the nomination list, which is fun because you and I get to have some back and forth and debate and offer our opinions about who we think ought to be in versus who we think will be in when all is said and done on voting day, which is fun because it means we get to argue our points, and who doesn't love that? We also, Tom, have a few thoughts on the induction process, the eligibility process, things that we could change. If we were czar of NASCAR for a day, of course, neither of us are, but we can dream and imagine, right? So we'll get started first by breaking down the modern era ballot. And then we'll get into the Pioneer ballot and, of course, the Landmark Award. The way this works is out of the modern era ballot, 10 names are on that ballot, of which 2, the top 2 in voting percentage, will get in as part of the class of 2027. Those are Kevin Harvick, the 2014 Cup champion, a 2-time champ of what is now the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, then the NASCAR Busch/Nationwide Series. When Kevin was running it regularly, he is a 60-time Cup Series winner, which is now 11th all-time in the wake of Denny Hamlin recently passing Kevin on that list. You have the late Greg Biffle, who won in the Cup Series 19 times and won the 2000 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and 2002 NASCAR Busch, now O'Reilly, Series title. You've got Jeff Burton, who won 21 times in the Cup Series and is now an analyst for NASCAR's NBC portion of their coverage, NBC and USA. You have Ernie Elliott, brother of Bill, who helped build the engines that powered Bill to the 1988 championship. This is his first time appearing on the Hall of Fame ballot, as it is the first time on the ballot for Ray Elder, who was one of the West Coast's most prolific short track drivers and a 6-time champion, as his family has noted on social media ad nauseum here of late, with good reason, of what was then known as the NASCAR Winston West Grand National Series, now known as ARCA Menard Series West, but he did not run ARCA. It was still NASCAR when Ray Elder ran it. Just let's end that debate right there. You've got Neil Bonnet, who won in Cup 18 times and served as a TV analyst for CBS Sports and TNN. Back in the day, you've got Randy LaJoie, 2-time NASCAR Busch Series, now O'Reilly Series champion, 3-time Craftsman Truck Series champion Jack Sprague, two-time championship crew chief at the Cup level, Tim Brewer, and of course the late Randy Dorton of Hendrick Motorsports fame, whose engines powered nearly double digits in terms of NASCAR National Series championships both before and after his passing, up until the redesign of the Chevrolet engine just before 2009. Those are your 10 names on the modern era. Tom, I know before we outright say who we think of these two eligible spots on the modern era ballot should get in, I know you and I both have thoughts on the hows and whys and whats, and everybody thinks that Kevin Harvick's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He probably will be, let's be honest. But I don't like that he's on here this soon, and I know you agree with that sentiment wholeheartedly.
Well, I don't know if I'd say I agree with exactly that sentiment wholeheartedly.
Okay.
I think there's a step that's missing from this, and here's what I mean. You're part of the problem I have with the Hall of Fame right now is that there's still a lot of Ray Elders, a lot of Randy Dortons, a lot of Neil Bonnets, a lot of Jeff Bodines, a lot of Smokey Yunick's who are not yet in the Hall of Fame. And then you get the Kevin Harvicks, the Jeff Gordons, the Jimmy Johnsons, and when these drivers, the Kyle Bushes eventually, when they become eligible, because we only elect two members or two people off this modern ballot, and these superstars like Harvick are included in the modern ballot, we rush to put them in at the expense of someone from the past who should be legitimately in. So that's the consternation I have with this. I know Kevin Harvick's going to get voted in. It's a foregone conclusion. I would like to see some other category, just retired, whatever, come up with a way to go ahead and put Kevin Harvick in, or Dale Jr. in, or Jimmy Johnson in, but still have at least two of these folks that can get in as well. I don't understand the limitations. In other sports, like football, anyone who gets 75% or higher of the vote gets in that year. So sometimes it's three people, sometimes it may be five or six. I don't know why we can't do that here, because the greatest thing that really bothers me is when we have to elect somebody posthumously because we've waited too long to put them in while they were alive to enjoy the flower. So for me, I look at this and say, well, of course Kevin Harvick's going to get in, but why could we not put two more of these people or three more? So that's my problem. It isn't so much that I don't want Kevin to be on the ballot right away. It's just that I think somehow we just don't get enough people in each year, and I think he's taking a spot right now that somebody legitimately should earn. And so, I mean, does that make sense to you, Jacob?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely it does. And I'll add to that, and in doing so, also be able to weave in a few things that myself and our SWN statistician and NASCAR expert, Seth Eggert, have talked about regarding the whole election process right now for the NASCAR Hall of Fame into this discussion as well. First, I'll say, really, this has been broken going all the way back to the beginning. My argument was, when this first launched in 2010, we should have had a base class of 25 or even 50 names that should have been the basis for the Hall of Fame instead of starting with 5, because by the time we opened the Hall of Fame in 2010 and elected that first class, you already had close to 70 years of NASCAR history to have to go through. Right. And, couple hundred probably worthy Hall of Fame names by that point. And you
Agreed.
just can't, at a pace of only electing 5 or electing 3 per year. I mean, that's glacial. To put it mildly, you're never going to get everybody that deserves to be and that should be in the Hall of Fame in at that pace as you're continuing to retire more and more, names that should be and deservedly will be one day in the Hall of Fame in their own rights. So, yeah, to me, we didn't do a good job as a sport, in my opinion, of getting more of the core, pioneers, the ones that built NASCAR into what it is 70 years later, into the Hall of Fame right off the bat. We should have had 25 or 50 names in as the launching class instead of starting with 5 and doing this glacial trickle, if you will, of names into the Hall of Fame, because you're just never going to get everybody that's Hall of Fame worthy in doing it at the pace we're doing it.
I
Now, that being said, the addendum to that, and what Seth and I discussed recently in a discussion, actually, what we all ended up discussing in an SWN video discussion that is recently launched, is the fact that we ought to arguably split up the ballot, have, a cup ballot, have a O'Reilly truck ballot, have a NASCAR regional ballot for the lower series, like the modifieds, the weekly series, ARCA, et cetera, et cetera. Potentially have a ballot for crew chiefs and crew members, have a ballot for executives, although I would argue the Landmark Award does a pretty good job of that, I would say, for outstanding
I agree.
contributions outside just the on track and the crew member aspect of the Hall of Fame. But really, I think splitting the ballots and, like you said, then having a threshold where anybody with a certain percentage of the ballot gets in each year would arguably do a much better job of getting more people that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame in the Hall of Fame
Yes.
quicker than the way we're doing it right now. No?
Yeah, I agree. I think you got to do something. And I know that the secondary discussion has been that this should be just cup drivers. And I'm not even going to spend a lot of time on that because there's a word missing from the NASCAR Hall of Fame on the door. It's the word cup. So
Exactly.
that means it's not the NASCAR Cup Hall of Fame. It's the
Yes.
NASCAR Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
It covers
Thank
all
you.
classes. And oh, by the way, for those of you who want it to be just the NASCAR Cup Hall of Fame, I will remind you of this. NASCAR started with modifieds.
Ding.
So,
That's correct.
we'll just leave that where it is. So, with that being said, let's look at the modern era ballot. We've named the names.
Yes.
Who are your 2 choices?
Well, here's the deal. I'm gonna say what I think will happen first, and then I will say what if I were voting and a member of the voting committee, what I would do. What I believe will ultimately happen, much as I maybe wish it wouldn't happen this way, is I believe you'll probably see Kevin Harvick and Greg Biffle get in on the modern era ballot this year. And Greg, because of course of the tragedy that happened back in December, of which I don't necessarily believe that should be a crutch for putting him in the Hall of Fame right now.
No,
Do
I
I
agree
believe
with
Greg
that.
Biffle is Hall of Fame worthy? Absolutely, I do. Because I believe every one of those 10 names that we named on this year's modern era ballot is Hall of Fame worthy and should be,
Totally.
and I hope will be in the Hall of Fame one day. That being said, that's what I think will happen. What I would do if it were me, and it does a little bit pain me to say this, purely based on the fact that he is well above every threshold for what we've set established precedent will get you in the Hall of Fame. Yes, I'm voting Kevin Harvick in if I'm on the voting committee. You really there's no way to not do it when he's in this list of 10. But I'm not putting Greg Biffle in as my second along with him. I'm putting in Randy Dorton because you stop and figure this is about impact on the sport as well. And Randy Dorton, if you don't have him building the engines to make a Jeff Gordon and a Jimmy Johnson in their primes who they were, which makes Hendrick Motorsports as an organization what it is in contemporary NASCAR history. Maybe you don't get Jeff Gordon winning 90 something races. Maybe you don't get Jimmy Johnson winning 5 championships in a row and 7 overall. Without what Randy Dorton did for Hendrick Motorsports in making that team the absolute dominant force of the era, that man, God rest his soul and everybody that was on the Hendrick plane crash back in 2005. But without Randy Dorton, Hendrick Motorsports arguably doesn't exist to the stature that it is today. So Kevin Harvick and Randy Dorton are my two, Tom.
Interesting choices, and I certainly agree that Kevin Harvick is going to get in. There's just no way that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I disagree with something you said. You said if you were on the voting committee, you would vote for Kevin because there's really no way that you couldn't. There is a way. It's just you don't vote for him. It's that simple, which is exactly what I would do if I was on the voting committee. I wouldn't vote for Kevin Harvick because I think legitimately the number one name on this list, in my opinion, is Ray Elder. Ray Elder is a 6-time NASCAR Winston West champion. Okay, it says ARCA Menard Series West. That's demeaning to what series was when Ray Elder was racing in it in the 70s. It was the same Cup cars that the NASCAR Cup Series, Winston Cup Series raced in the East and Midwest and wherever.
Yeah,
the West was just a regional version of the National Series at that time.
Yep.
So the competition was extremely strong, and Ray Elder did very well against the big boys of NASCAR whenever the occasion came where they would come west and he would race against them. I think Ray Elder, above everybody on this list, if you take off Kevin Harvick, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And I think it's high time that we reached back and just put him in. So I'm voting for Ray Elder as the first one. I've actually changed my mind on the second one. And again, staying away from Kevin Harvick, I know he's going to get in, but I'm just telling you who I would vote for. My second one, I love Randy Dorton, and I think that's a great pick, and Randy should be in there. But there's another guy named Randy on this list that the more I thought about it, the more that I think Randy LaJoie needs to go in. And the reason why is not because he was a 2-time Busch Series, Nationwide Series, whatever it was, AAA Series champion, and the 1985 NASCAR North Tour champion. I think he should go in because of all of the safety innovations that he's been responsible for, and all of the lives, both in and outside of NASCAR, that he has potentially saved or certainly impacted with LaJoie Seating. The Joy of Seating, his business and all of the things that he's done. I think impact matters. It's why when people said, well, Dale Jr. doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, his stats weren't that great. No, maybe not. He did win a couple 500s, didn't win a championship.
He did.
But Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets in the Hall of Fame, not because his name was Earnhardt, but because he continues to be a face for the sport across the world, not just racing. I mean, his name, the things he's done with, doing Olympic coverage and Kentucky Derby and the Indy 500, and I think he did a couple of Redskin games or whatever. Like his impact on the sport has been so massive. I think that counts. I don't think it's just stats. So that's why I think Junior deserved to be in there. And I do agree that Kevin Harvick deserves to be. But I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, it's got to be, for me, it's Randy LaJoie and Ray Elder. And we'll see where that falls. I think it's a shame that only one other person besides Kevin out of this list is going to get voted in this year.
No, for sure. I agree with that. And I love your explanation, particularly surrounding Randy LaJoie. It's one of those things that I hadn't, I guess, fully thought about in that discussion, but it's a great point. Pioneer era ballot. Let's move to that here for just a minute. We've got 5 names on this list, of which 1 gets in as the 3rd member of the class of 2027. You've got Ray Fox, NASCAR's first legendary mechanic and car owner, who was the 1956 Mechanic of the Year. You've got Herb Nabb, the longtime crew chief for Cale Yarborough, who had 92 Cup wins as a crew chief, which, by the way, is 3rd all-time to this day. Banjo Matthews, who won more than 250 Cup Series races as a car builder. You've got Larry Phillips, the 5-time champion, national champion of what is now the NASCAR Local Racing Series, powered by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And you've got 1970 Cup Championship crew chief Harry Hyde, of course, the inspiration as we know in Hollywood for that one movie. Yeah, Harry Hogg. All right. So I'll just go dive into this real quick on the Pioneer Era ballot. I've preached this. He's the only person on this list who has been part of every NASCAR Hall of Fame ballot since they rejiggered it several years ago. And he continues on this list, and I think it's high time he gets off this list because he gets in the Hall of Fame. Larry Phillips, please. Enough said. I'm with Mark Martin on this. The fact that Larry Phillips is not in the Hall of Fame yet is an absolute travesty.
I agree. Totally. You and I will agree on this. Larry Phillips gets in. Listen, again, I think all 5 of these guys legitimately are Hall of Fame material and should be in the Hall. But I think Larry Phillips, because again, this is not just the NASCAR Cup Hall of Fame. Larry Phillips was the bomb. And we've got other weekly racing series racers that'll be coming up eventually too. Philip Morris among them.
Lee Pulliam.
Lee Pulliam much down the road, I hope, because I hope his career in NASCAR National Series is only beginning.
Yes.
But I just think Larry Phillips is absolutely the star pick out of this group. And I hope they put him in.
Yes. Landmark Award for Outstanding Contributions is the last piece to this. You've got Lisa France Kennedy, of course, the current NASCAR Executive Vice Chair. T. Wayne Robertson, the R.J. Reynolds Sports Marketing Exec who took NASCAR into the stratosphere in the 70s and 80s and championed the creation of the Winston. NASCAR's first flagman, Alvin Hawkins, who helped start racing at Bowman Gray Stadium with Bill France Sr., Dr. Joseph Mattioli, who founded Pocono Raceway, and longtime NASCAR exec and West Coast expansion leader Les Richter. I am going here with T. Wayne because without T. Wayne Robertson, NASCAR does not go boom into the stratosphere and become a nationwide and I would argue global phenomenon. That to me is an outstanding contribution, bar none by definition.
I agree. And, now look, let's set aside that this was cigarettes, right? That's not the point.
Yes.
Okay. Here is the point. T. Wayne Robertson and the folks at R.J. Reynolds went to Charlotte Motor Speedway at one point, looked up in the audience and said, every one of these people are our customers. And they not only went all in on the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, but their support trickled all the way down to the local tracks and the weekly racing series. And I think they did the best job of taking care of the weekly racing series racers and really treating them like they were important of any sponsor that NASCAR's ever had. Now, O'Reilly Auto Parts, it remains to be seen, but I agree totally. T. Wayne Robertson, wow, should have been in the Hall of Fame long before this, honestly, and certainly should get in now. I agree 100% with that, Jacob. And with that, we're going to conclude the Hall of Fame discussion. We're going to take a break. And we've got much more to come on the other side. Stay with us on the Tom Baker Show.
MillerTech builds lithium batteries for RVs, golf carts, boats, and off-grid life. Reliable power, long lifespan, and a 10-year warranty. That's why I trust MillerTech. MillerTech, powering your adventure.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Welcome back to the show, and it is time for our America's Racers segment, Jacob.
That it is, and we're going to kind of do a what have we learned in this America's Racers segment, and across three different portions of America's Racers, if you will. We'll start on the National Sprint Car side, have a little bit of discussion here on both the World of Outlaws and the High Limit Sprint Car Tours, both of whom are national in their own rights. Almost 2 months into the Outlaws season, David Gravel has been on a roll, had 3 straight feature wins at one point, and has once again established himself as arguably the favorite in search of his 3rd straight World of Outlaws title in the Gravel era. Number 1, are you really surprised? And number 2, who do you think, if anybody, has the best shot at dethroning the current king?
Wow. Well, number 1, not surprised at all. David Gravel has been the man for the last couple seasons. I don't see why he shouldn't continue to be a top contender this season. I think what have we learned about the World of Outlaws? I think we've learned that there are 2 or 3 drivers that could, as we get into the heart of the season coming up here, the warm weathers of summer and fall, I think there's 2 choices here. Number 1, I think Donnie Schatz is very capable of giving a run for Gravel, a run for his money. I think Donnie, again, he started off the season really well, and there's still a long, long way to go. And I think Schatz will be in contention, and I think the other one is obvious, Buddy Kofoid. And I think there's probably a couple of more as well that could step up as the season goes on. We've had a lot of drivers changing rides and new faces in new places that are taking some time, I think, to really get the consistency. I do think Gravel is still the guy that the road to the championship goes through, Jacob. But I absolutely believe that there are at least those 2, if not a couple of more, that as we get into the summer, could get hot. And all it takes in this series is Gravel to have 2 or 3 bad races. And suddenly this looks a lot different.
And that's the big thing, is that they've minimized the number of bad races almost to 0 for Gravel over the past couple of seasons. I can only remember really one truly abysmal night for him all season in 2025, and this year they had the abysmal night during the show-up points-only race at Volusia that opened the season that didn't even, really shoot them in the foot because it was show-up points only. So if that's the only mulligan, the field's in trouble. But I will also add, by the way, that Carson Macedo I don't think is a driver that should be overlooked. He and Jason Johnson Racing tend to get hot, no pun intended.
I agree.
When the weather warms up, the track slicks off, and the summertime time gets going. So keep an eye on the 41 also. High limit side, we started with a lot of parity. We had 6 winners in 6 races, and then it's kind of settled out over the past few weeks, and now you've got Tanner Thorson versus Aaron Reitzel, of which for sure the Thorson side, I don't think we necessarily expected to be saying at this point. Are we buying that duo is going to be the chief butting heads for the championship, or do we feel like a lot of people are discounting that guy that won last year's title is still kind of good in a sprint car, and he's working with a team that's still kind of good at fielding sprint cars in Tony Stewart Racing? I feel like everybody's forgot about Rico. Hello?
Well, I don't think anybody's forgotten about Rico, but I think people are just looking at what they see. And if you just look at what you see, then yes, I absolutely think that the dynamic duo of Thorson and Reitzel are the favorites. But we all know that, again, like with the World of Outlaws, it's a long season yet. Rico Abreu's not out of this. I am a little surprised, though, that we haven't seen more of Rico in Victory Lane than we have. I actually thought he would come out and be one of the hottest drivers out of the gate, and that just hasn't happened. They finished a new shop. I mean, I think, I think their best is obviously yet to come. And I think as we get into the summer, you're going to see Rico go on a bit of a tear. I don't know that he's going to become a dominant force. I'm not sure there is going to be one of those because Kyle Larson can't run all the races.
True. True.
I think that all 3 of those guys are going to be factors right to the end. And I think, much like the World of Outlaws, I think this is going to go right down to the wire.
Yeah, and Rico's only 60 points back of the lead through 8 races. He does have 1 win, 6 top 10s, so it's not like he's been bad. He's just not been quite as flashy, we'll say, as a Thorson or a Reitzel to this point. If anything, I would argue the one that's really surprised me as being off the most has been the Rudine Racing 26 car of Justin Peck, who's really been kind of nowhere this season after winning multiple races last year, and really, I think was, I said during the offseason, I thought that team was going to take the next step, and they just haven't done it so far. But like you said, still a very long season ahead. Shifting out of the dirt world and across to the pavement fendered version, Cars Tour discussion. What have we learned? It is still very early in the Cars Tour season, but as we've seen so far, Caden Quapple, Junior Motorsports, I mean, we know Junior Motorsports has still been kind of the premier of the Cars Tour. Caden Quapple trying to join his brother Carson by winning a Cars Tour championship this year. The biggest nugget of all of this early spring discussion, we saw Doug Barnes at Wake County have a little to do there with Minnie Tyrell. Doug was initially suspended for a race. That was overturned on appeal, so Doug not out of title contention by any means, but certainly one of those where he's going to have to be one with all eyes on him with a microscope for a bit. Who are you eyeing, though, as one or ones, plural if you want, to watch in the Cars Tour going forward beyond the obvious names that we've all been talking about?
Oh, boy. I'll give you a name to watch, and I it's not it could be in the stock division, but I really feel like he's a name to watch in their pro late model division, and that's Lightning London McKenzie. Now, he's running in both classes. He's running for AK Performance in the late model stocks, and he's running for Kyle Beatty Racing in the pro late. And he started off with a 3rd place to start the season in the pro, and it was running 3rd in the stock and had an issue and fell out. But I'm telling you, I don't know if it's a championship run for London, but he's going to be a guy you're going to see up near the front in both divisions as often as he runs. And I feel like he's probably going to run the entire pro schedule. and they're hoping to run the entire stock schedule as well. I think that's a young man who's going somewhere here. And oh, by the way, London also can win races on the dirt, the micro sprints too. He's a driver that everybody should be paying attention to. He's a nice kid, very intelligent, very Christian, humble young man. And London is very charismatic with the camera too. I think he's a driver to watch.
I'll toss you one real quick on the stock side, and that's Sam Butler, who sits second in points through the first two races to Caden Quapple. Sam has been great in the stock division over the past couple of years. He's been good in the Legend car, good at Hickory, and now good in the Cars Tour. I think Sam, for sure, is somebody who has learned a lot and is ready to show how much he's learned against the likes of a Caden Quapple, a Doug Barnes, a Connor Jones. Real quickly, on the ARCA side, our third, what have we learned here? We know two things. The ARCA world still runs through Joe Gibbs Racing, and it still runs through Pinnacle Racing Group, particularly PRG of late. Tristan McKee's won 2 in a row. Carson Brown won his first ARCA race back in March at Phoenix. Are we at a point where ARCA's lost its luster, or is there still something to be said for development based on guys like McKee and Brown trying to move up?
Well, I mean, ARCA did just have its best, most watched broadcast in the last 10 years recently at Hickory Motor Speedway, 175,000 views. So that's not bad, right? So, and, you know, let's face it, we got Squirrel McNutt running around in the ARCA East, and, you know, we got old Garrett Mitchell McFarland Cletus running around in the ARCA National Series, who just had a 4th place finish at Rockingham. So, you know, I guess I would argue that ARCA might be in for a little bit of a bump in energy and excitement because of this. And we can debate all day whether either of them are ready for the ARCA level, but here they are, right? And so it's a different era. So with that being said, no, I think ARCA is still viable. I think it has its place. And we don't have time to get into this long discussion here, but I would say that on another show, we could have a talk about where the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series fits into the development, given that I think in some ways it's almost just as easy to go from ARCA straight to O'Reilly anymore. And so something to look at. But yeah, I do think that ARCA is still relevant, and to a lot of people right now, it's kind of more fun than it's been in a while. With that, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time for the last lap. And I've got an announcement to do with MillerTech to start that off right after this.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners, elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
MillerTech builds lithium batteries for RVs, golf carts, boats, and off-grid life. Reliable power, long lifespan, and a 10-year warranty. That's why I trust MillerTech. MillerTech, powering your adventure.
Welcome back to the show. It is time now for our last lap segment, and it is MillerTech Monday, as always, here on SWN and the Tom Baker Show. And we are going to start off the last lap talking about the International Super Modified Association ISMA MSS Tour is launching at Flamborough Speedway on May the 16th for the 2026 season, Jacob. And as you and I are in charge of who we think deserves the MillerTech Power Performance Award, I'm going to vote that we issue the award for this particular MillerTech Monday to the entire International Super Modified Association Tour, because what more brilliant display of power and performance is there anywhere in short track racing than 850 horsepower top wing super modifieds running around half-mile race tracks 2 to 3 seconds quicker than any other short track racing vehicle that runs on them.
Okay, fair enough. I can buy that definition. I'll admit I wasn't sure where you were going with that quite at first, but I'll buy that definition. And you're absolutely right. Anybody that's never seen a super modified race on pavement, you don't know what you're missing, because and I'm not just biased because my grandfather used to race them, you see. It's just absolutely breathtaking to watch them dive off, for those that know, at about 165 miles an hour into turn 1 at Oswego Speedway. And I say that knowing that you know full well what that's like, 100%. Having sat in those same grandstands.
Yes, absolutely. Since 1973. And yes, super modifieds are the bomb. So yes. Now back to the topic at hand. Flamborough Speedway in Canada. This track, Doug Didero, former super modified champion and IndyCar competitor, is among those whose family was involved, his dad was, with this track for many years. And so I think this is going to be a fun way to start the season.
I think it will be. Real quick, we know Mike McVetti's the reigning champ. Tyler Schulich really had his coming out party last year in the Bodnar Super. Anybody that springs to mind that you think we should be watching?
Yes, the guy you just mentioned, Tyler Schulich. Okay. He went from 31st to 4th. I think actually it's about 28th to 4th at Oswego Speedway for the Budweiser International Classic. Drove through the field like a bullet train, just ran out of time. I think if he started anywhere in the top 15, he'd have won it. And came to Caraway here and again finished in second in that event. I think he is legitimately one of the heavy favorites to win the ISMA MSS Championship in 2026, and he's the guy I'm really looking forward to seeing.
All right, real quick before we close this show out, I want to give a shout out, and we'll talk more about this on the next Tom Baker show, to Robert Wickens, who's back in IMSA. He's racing the 5 sprint rounds of the WeatherTech Championship in GTD alongside his past teammate Mason Filippi, using hand controls with DXDT Racing. More on that on the next show, but go Wickens. I love this story. I love that Robbie's been back in a race car, and I love that he's finding a way to race at a high level.
I agree. And here's something else to chew on until a future Tom Baker show when we can talk about it. Felipe Nasr in IndyCar. There are some people who are championing this move. Who knows?
Oh!
But boy, would I love to see that. And we'll have to leave it there until a future show. But obviously, more content at steeringwheelnation.com, at The Wheel Nation on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, for Jacob Seelman, I'm Tom Baker. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.